This is Mitesh. Hey guys, this is Mitesh here. I'm going to demo how to use the streaming Twitter streaming API, filtering it on certain keywords, and then running a Spark streaming application to do some more filtering, as well as making sure that the duplicate tweets are removed, and then the Spark application will basically be adding the tweets that it reads into Couchbase. For that, I have used uh, the Twitter Java client, Twitter 4J, using Java 8. The Spark application is a Spark structured streaming application, which is written in Spark 2.2, and Couchbase is Couchbase, I think version 6.x. To do all this, let's go ahead and set up the environment that is needed first. You guys see here, I am in my home root directory right now. First, let's download the code that I have set up in the GitHub repo. To do that, go to the following link that I've highlighted here and download the code. Once you are in the home directory, let's create a folder wherein we'll place all our required components. Let's cd into the folder that we are going to use as our home base. Once we are in the folder, let's download the code from the GitHub repo. To do that, it's git clone, and that should do it for us. And it's taking some time, not sure why. Yep, now it's done. Here we have the entire repo downloaded or cloned to our local. This is the repo. It has all the code as well as a readme. But let's go back to our home folder or Walmart home folder, which basically has the repo now. Secondly, we need Spark, specifically Spark 2.2. So for that, this is the archive link that needs to be used to download Spark 2.2. I already have a link to the specific tar. Let me copy that over. The command to download the Spark tarball is as follows. So we'll basically be downloading the Spark 2.2 binary in the same folder as we have downloaded our repo. This will take some time. It takes about 10 minutes as I've initially or previously checked. So I'm going to cancel this and just copy over the jar that tar that I already have. But when you guys are trying to run this, just make sure that this runs through to completion. But for now, I'm just going to cancel this and remove this and just copy over the one that I already have from my previous download. Okay, once we have the jar, once you guys have the bin downloaded or the tar downloaded, which I've just copied over from my old location, we have to untar. So to untar, you just use, what's the command? Yep, this is the command. This is the command to untar. So what this will do is it will basically untar the tar and set it up in a separate folder here under Spark 2.2 bin. After this, we need to set the Spark home variable. So we cd into the Spark home Spark directory, do a pwd, and do an export. Right, So now we have set up Spark home directory. Now, as we are just using export for this specific session, or the we'll when we move to a different window or a different tab in a terminal, we'll have to reset it. Unfortunately, this will set it to this session only. So when we move over, I'll also demonstrate how to do it again. But as of now, what we have is our Spark downloaded, our code downloaded. uh, Next, what we need to do is we need to download Couchbase. To download Couchbase, go to the following directory, and it's just a simple download. I already have it here, I guess. Yes. So I'm going to download. It's a simple download. Basically, once it's downloaded, we just have to click on it and go through the instructions to install Couchbase. Yeah. Once it goes into the applications directory, it's done. Let's go into the applications directory. From either you go from the command line or you go into Finder. In there, just try and find Couchbase server and try and double click it if you're on Mac. If you are on any other Linux machines or Linux installations, you'll have to do this through command line, but right now I'm just doing it through UI. Once the applications server starts up, or Couchbase server starts up, initially it will basically ask you to go through the process of setting up the admin username and password. I've already done that. Even if I installed a new one, it basically knows to fetch from data that it's basically stored for the application. This I've already set up, so this will just run. I also have the bucket set up, so you'll probably see a bucket here, which I am going to actually delete. So now we don't have any buckets, and we know that Couchbase is already set up. We can see that the Couchbase is already set up. Here, what I'm going to do is, because we need a bucket, I'm going to create a bucket. I'm going to call it Twitter, and we don't really need so much quota. We will just set it up to 120 MBs, and that should be good enough. Give it some time. It takes, even though we have deleted the previous bucket, we are renaming it the same as Twitter. So it will have, initially it will show the number of items previously in the previous bucket, but once it is set up correctly, the items will be 0. So now we can see that the items are 0 in the bucket. So basically we have everything that we need. Spark 2.2, the GitHub repo code is downloaded, as well as Couchbase is up and running. So okay, we have all the required components. Spark 2.2, the Git repo downloaded, as well as Couchbase up and running with a Twitter bucket. One other thing that we also need to check is Java. It needs Java 8. So I have Java 8 already installed. So just make sure that Java is installed and it's set up, Java home is set up properly. Next, what we need to do is we need to build the jar. We go into Walmart home repo. The quickest way to build the jar, you basically do a maven clean package. So you just do a maven clean package and the jar is successfully built. It should show that a target directory is created. I see the target directory here. So target directory is created. Let's see what's in there. I see the required jar here. This is the jar that we'll be using and not the original jar. This jar has all the dependencies as well. Next, there are a couple of things that we need to do before we will start running the application. The application is split up into two components. One is the Java client that will actually connect to Twitter and start downloading or basically listen to Twitter stream and start writing it to 1 minute files. And the second component is the Spark streaming application, which will listen to the log files, read those log files, and push it into Couchbase, which is up and running. One thing to remember here is because this is a local setup and to get this up and running quickly, it is expected that both the applications are run from the same directory. That doesn't mean we have to run it from the same terminal, but from the same directory. So in this terminal, we will be running the Java application. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to split the screen up so that we can see the Java application running as well as the Spark application running. So the upper part is the upper terminal will be Java, and let's start a second terminal as well. And the second terminal below will be Spark. It's the same directory that we are in, above and below. In the below terminal, we have to, if you check, we don't have Spark home setup, so we'll have to set that up because it is needed. So the way we do it is we go into Spark directory, do a pwd, get that, export Spark home is equal to this. Okay, now if we do an echo, we say this, we go back into our code directory, the repo directory. If you do a pwd, this and this are the same, so technically we are in the same directories. It's just that we are in two terminals. Before we get started, there are two things that we need to do. One is set up the log directory. So we create a logs directory here in the code repo's root folder. This will create the logs. This will be used by the Java application to write the logs and by the Spark application to read the logs. Once this logs directory is created, we cd into the logs directory and create another subdirectory, which is the ingest directory. So the way the Java application is set up, it will basically use a rolling file appender logger and generate 1 minute log files. The base log file will be written to logs slash directory, and once it rolls over to the next minute, the active log file will be moved into ingest with a proper timestamp. And the Spark application will be looking into logs slash ingest folder. Once this is set up, we'll go back to the repository's home folder, and we will also create a Spark checkpoint folder. If you create it, if you don't create it, it's fine. The application will itself create the Spark folder. So let's start. Before starting the Java application, one thing to remember is to access Twitter, you have to create an account on developer.twitter.com and get these API keys and access token keys and access token secrets. I have already done that, and I have set the access level to read only. I already have those tokens here. I'll share those tokens in my documentation, so whoever doesn't want to use their tokens or doesn't want to create the account can use my tokens. But before we get started, we need to set this up. Once we have that, let's go ahead and start the Java application. This is the command to start the Java application. Add created two keys, so I'm going to use the latest created keys. Need the complete class name as well, fully qualified class name. So once everything is set up properly and we run this, it should start listening to Twitter stream and start writing log files. One thing to remember is the Java application also needs Couchbase username and Couchbase password. That has to come from your local Couchbase setup. Let's start the Java application. What this Java application is going to do is it will keep a count of the number of tweets that it received, raw tweets. Then it will also show a count of unique tweets that were inserted into Couchbase. So to start with, the unique number of tweets should be 0. And as we progress, as a Spark application and Java applications run, the count should keep increasing. So let's start the Java application. Okay, so if you see, the total tweets that we see here are 000. Let's give it a minute and see that it is actually receiving tweets. If we come back to our terminal and look at this, we see that it's been over maybe a couple of minutes that we were in our IDE, and it started reading. It has started reading tweets. Seems like it's read 670 tweets, 670 tweets, raw tweets, and it has written to file. We'll go and check the files as well. Unique tweet consumed, it will only be 1. The reason it will be 1 is what I've done is I've used the same Twitter bucket to keep a counter. So what it has done is as of now it has just added a counter to keep total tweets consumed count. Once we start the Spark application, we will see that the unique tweets consumed stored in Couchbase will start increasing. It's showing 1 right now, but it's basically just a counter document. I'm just going to open up another terminal here to show the log files that are being generated. So if we cd into logs, we'll see that there is a twitter.log file that is being generated. If we go into ingest, there'll be 3 files because it's been 3 minutes that these files are being sort of generated or created every minute. So each file is for a minute, and it's rolling every minute. Let's go back to our Java application terminal. As you see, there are 1200 tweets, approximately 1200 tweets that have been read, which are very specific to Justin Bieber. We haven't started the Spark application yet. Let's just go and check our Couchbase. If we go in here, if we refresh, it will be 1 because, as I said, it is just a counter document that I've added. Now let's start our Spark application. To start our Spark application, we go to the second window, which is setup, wherein we have also set up our Spark home folder or Spark home environment variable. Once we are there, the command is we use this path, bin spark submit. Let's check the version once. So it's version 2.2 and Scala version 2.11.8. Remember, the code is set up to work on Spark 2.2 as of now. I have made no changes right now to make it work on 2.4. The reason being, I had Spark 2.2 already installed and the project was already set up in 2.2, so I'm just going with Spark 2.2. So to get the Spark application running, we just use this. We use the following code, or rather following command. Make sure that the Spark. Make sure that we are in the code repos root directory, just as we did while executing our Java application. Once we have made sure that Spark Home is set in the second terminal as well, we can use the following command to start the Spark application. The Spark application is written in as a Spark structured streaming application. It will use a 2-second window to keep checking for new files and start reading the files from logs/ingest folder. So let's start the Spark application now. There seems to be some problem. Oh, okay. So this is the command, and now it started. So this is an error which I'm trying to debug, but it just doesn't have any issue on the application that's running. It will keep on running. If you see here, it's basically read. If you see here, it has basically read input rows 440 and input rows per second is so much. So as it goes through, it will start reading files. Now that we have our Spark application running, we should also see the Java application. It will show counts now. If you see here, this is the before our Spark application run, or before our Spark application could add anything into Couchbase. This was the count, and once it added and the Java application refreshed its count, this is what we see. So now we see that 2500 or 2595 tweets have been added to Couchbase. We can check this again in our Couchbase UI as well. This is what we see. We have Couchbase UI. We can see that there are 2595 items here as well. And as we keep this going, it will keep on continuing. It will keep on adding. And we can see that the Java application is continuously running, as well as the Spark application is running as well, and adding documents. Let's do a test. So what is our data pipeline doing? It's basically listening to the Spark streaming API, but only listening to tweets that have Justin Bieber in it. And then our Spark application is basically filtering out any tweet which is related to music. The way to test this is, let's say I'm going to go to my home page, and I am going to create a couple of tweets, couple which are related to music with Justin Bieber in it, and a couple which don't have music, song, or those terms that are in Spark filter function in it. And then we'll go back and check how to verify those in our Couchbase. So let's say this is a test, Justin Bieber. This has music word in it. So we have Justin Bieber um, let me check if the spelling is correct. Yep, so this is correct. Let's tweet this. um, right now, so we have created 4 tweets. um, let's give it about a few seconds, and hopefully those will appear in our log files. um, to do this, go to the terminal, go to a terminal wherein we are already in the logs folder. The logs folder is basically in logs and ingest. Here we see each file, uh, basically a log file for each minute. So let's look at the latest log file. It's this one. And once we go in there, let's try and search for Mitesh, because I have tweeted it, so the tweet will have my name as well. So it's in here. So I found one tweet. Now it says, let's see what the tweet of this text of this tweet is. The text says, this is a test, Justin Bieber. This has music word in it. Now this has music word in it. Even though we have received this tweet, right, in the log files, the Spark application should technically not push this into Couchbase. So I am fetching the ID of this tweet, as this ID is used as the document ID in Couchbase. I am going to save it here for now. Let's look at another tweet. So I don't find any other tweet with my name, so I'm gonna get out of the file and then look for another file, which is like a recent file. The one that we looked at was 23/16/56, right? So I'm going to look 55 was the previous one that we looked at. Now I'm going to look at 03/23/16/56. Again, search for my name. I see it. Now I see it as, this is my name, so this is the tweet that I this is what I tweeted. So this is probably the second tweet. Let's look at the text. This is a test, Justin Bieber. This is about his life. So even though we have received this tweet, Spark application should not filter this but add this to filter this out, but add this to our Couchbase. So I'm going to select this ID and document it here, about life. Now let's search the first tweet. The first tweet was about music. So I'm going to go into the Couchbase UI, going to go into the documents, and then I've selected the tweet ID, copied the tweet ID about music, and once I go in here and search, I don't see it here because the Spark application filtered it out and it did not add to Couchbase. Now if I look at the second tweet ID, which is about life, we should see it here. Yes, now we see it here. If we want to look at the document, we go into here and see that it says this is a test, Justin Bieber. This is about his life. It doesn't have the keywords that we filtered out on in the Spark application. We can keep doing this. We can look for other 2 tweets as well, but I think this is good, and I'm probably going over time for for this video. But as I said, the applications, both the applications are running in their respective windows here. It'll just keep on running until I don't kill those applications. The reason I've set these applications up into two components is it'll be easier to maintain them. It'll be easier to sort of improve them one by one. Eventually, if we want to make this as a complete streaming application, we can just have the Java application write to Kafka, a Kafka stream, and the Spark application read from Kafka stream. The only changes that will be needed would be minor in the Java application as well as the Spark application. That's it from me. I will be documenting all the commands that I've used here, so that whoever looks at this video and looks at the repo can run the applications properly. Thank you.